Good afternoon and welcome to Across the Fence. I'm Jolie Whitney. Marcel Proust, the French novelist, described lilacs as tall mauve chandeliers composed of delicate bubbles and breaking waves of fragrant foam. What Proust put into words, the friends of the UVM Horticulture Farm put into action. Keith Silva caught up with Kitty Werner, who taught about the culture of lilacs and tips for growing this symbol of purity and innocence.
Lilacs are technically speaking a shrub.
Kitty Werner loves lilacs.
There's something like 11 listed colors of the lilacs, ranging from yellow, blue, white, pinks, mauve. Lilacs are not native to Vermont. They actually came from China, Korea, Japan, part of Eastern Europe. They need to be cold in the wintertime. They have to go through that whole freeze process. Otherwise, they just won't grow. And that's why you find them in the colder areas. You can't grow them down south.
Werner is a member of Friends of the Horticultural Farm, a grassroots organization dedicated to protecting, enhancing, and promoting the plant collections and natural areas at the University of Vermont's Horticulture, Research, and Education Center in South Burlington. Terry Bradshaw manages the Horticultural Farm.
The lilac collection was started by Professor Norman Pellet at the beginning of his career. He was an ornamental horticulturalist, and Norm has long been retired. It's done its work. The industry knows what lilacs it needs and which of those are valuable and which of those are in the trade, but there's still some pretty neat varieties in there. And so we've kept it on the farm since then, and the Friends of the Horticulture Farm maintain that collection mostly as just a place of beauty and as a specimen collection of old varieties. This is a pretty significant piece of real estate in South Burlington, and so a lot of people can interface with it, even though they may not on a regular basis. So this provided a way for the community to get engaged and have some kind of relationship with the place. They started partially to maintain these extant collections that were left over. Expensive, it took a lot of labor to prune and maintain these things. And it's unique. I go to a lot of operations like this, other ag research stations at other schools. I've never seen one that has this kind of relationship with a group.
With a little help from her fellow friends, Werner has been cultivating, cutting, and caring for the lilacs here in an effort to bring them back to their former glory.
We're cleaning these guys up. We're adding compost and mulch and things like that and trying to bring them back to what they should be. Trying to rescue them. Several of them are in the process of unsadly dying because we get a lot of invasive plants, bittersweet, grapevines, black locust trees, crab apples growing in them. We've had oak, maple.
Kitty, what are the top 3 tips you have for caring for lilacs?
Location, location, location. They like dry feet. Average to more alkaline soil. And with the alkaline soil, if you don't have enough, add lime in the fall around the roots, not the stems. Number 2 would be pruning. If you want to do the major prune after the lilacs bloom, but if it's dead, anytime. That's not a problem. And you want to make sure when you're pruning, if you have a big old one, it's okay to take out not more than 1/3 of the plant and the 3 oldest canes. And the last one is spare the shoots. When you're mowing, if you use a heavy mower, don't get too close to the lilac. You're going to squash the roots and you're going to kill everything. And those are the little shoots are the ones that are going to save the plant for the future.
Lilacs, like spring in Vermont, comes late and stays only briefly. But what a time it is. What a time it is.
Tells you that this is spring's finally here.
For Werner and the Friends of the Horticultural Farm, the time is now. In South Burlington, I'm Keith Silva with Across the Fence.
Thank you, Keith and Kitty. From flowers, we turn our attention to an upcoming event in Burlington. Saturday, June 8th, from noon to 4 p.m. is the Preservation Burlington's Homes Tour. An eclectic mix of Burlington properties, the 2024 tour features a mansion-turned-boutique hotel, a former neighborhood market, and a restored and reimagined Greek Revival home that was recently saved from a fire and near demolition. Joining me to talk about the tour is the chair of Preservation Burlington, Matthew Viennes. Welcome.
Nice to be here. Thank you.
And we're going to hit some highlights of the tour this year, but first, can you talk about Preservation Burlington and what a significant event this is for you guys?
Oh, absolutely. So Preservation Burlington is a nonprofit historic preservation organization that has existed for around 20 years. It was founded by citizens of Burlington, largely with a mission to advocate for the preservation of historic properties and buildings in Vermont, particularly in Burlington, of course, and also to provide educational resources for people to help them be able to work on their own historic homes.
And talk about the importance of this event. Is it something you do once a year?
Actually, we do it once a year, usually the first or second Saturday in June. We've been doing it for around 20 years, and it is it's a huge event for us. We have around 600 participants, people who buy tickets, and with the generosity of the homeowners, we are able to exhibit and show to those folks some beautiful, usually around 6 beautiful historic Burlington homes.
All right, let's start with a preview of some of the homes people get to look forward to this year. First is 349 South Willard Street. What can you tell us about this home?
Sure. Well, this house probably, is one of the most beautiful structures in Burlington, likely well known to many people. It was originally called Willard Heights, and it was built in 1882, designed by a very renowned architect, A.B. Fisher, and it's a colonial revival style home, very massive structure. Currently, it is being operated as Blind Tiger Burlington, a boutique hotel. Prior to that, for many years, it was the South Willard or Willard Street Inn.
So quite a history. It's been a lot of things.
It has been a lot of things over the years.
All right, and let's move on to 369 South Union Street. So this one was built in 1898, and it's on the National Registry of Historic Places. Can you tell me about it?
Yes, this house is a shingle-style home. One of the things about it that is probably most notable is it has very beautifully preserved architectural details, both inside and outside of the home. It too was designed by a very well-noted architect in Burlington at the time. This architect actually also designed the library in downtown Burlington. The current owners of that home are very dedicated to preserving the home as is, and received an award a couple of years ago from our organization for the work that they've done there.
And you mentioned exterior and interior. Are these tours just of the outside?
No, the tours are of the outside and the inside. So that is one of the reasons we're so thankful to the homeowners that they're actually inviting people inside their homes to view the rooms that they live in every day.
That's incredible. And let's move on to another one on South Union Street. This one's so great it actually has 2 addresses, 175 and 177. And this is a Greek Revival style home built around 1870. Why was this one chosen?
This house was chosen because it really is a miracle in terms of preservation. I will note that the home is interesting because you said it was built around 1870. It was actually built a bit earlier in the 1840s and underwent changes over the years. It was originally a a Greek Revival home, and then later in the 1870s it was redesigned to include Italianate architectural details, which together is what we see today. This home is the home that suffered a fire back around 2000, and was very seriously damaged on the inside, and very close to being demolished. Luckily, the current owners were able to see what a treasure this home was, and have taken extensive efforts to restore the exterior. It's really an amazing job. But also the interior has been very much reimagined for modern life. So it's going to be a great stop on the tour. That house actually used to be owned by a prominent Burlington citizen who was once Attorney General and ran for governor. So it's a very important home in the history of Burlington, and we're very thankful that it's been saved.
It's quite a storied history.
Absolutely.
And before we jump into our next home, are these houses all walking distance from each other?
Yes, this year's tour is very walkable. We've had previous tours where the homes were more dispersed throughout the city. Here the homes are all within a few blocks of each other and should be quite easily walkable from one to the other.
All right, let's jump into our next one. Another 2-address home. This one is 44 and 46 Howard Street. And this is the former neighborhood market that I had mentioned in the introduction. What can you tell us about this property?
Yes, this home also has a pretty interesting history. Folks who are familiar with Burlington history, perhaps from Facebook, will note that Bob Blanchard often does posts on Burlington history, and they're very popular. This home was actually owned by the Blanchard family and was operated by Bob Blanchard's grandparents as a local market for a number of years. And the front downstairs room was actually the market of the home. And the current owner, who is only the third owner of this house in its 100 or so history, has taken great efforts to preserve the storefront as it was so that that history is retained, but also has very interesting collections inside that people will love to see of vintage pottery and vintage photography.
That's
implements.
Great. And before we wrap up, can you quickly tell us where the money that you raise from this tour goes?
Oh, absolutely. So the money we raise from this tour goes to support all of Preservation Burlington's efforts, both in terms of advocating for local laws to help safeguard historic homes and other properties in Burlington. It also goes toward any litigation efforts that that might need to happen to help preserve Burlington properties. Perhaps more importantly, it goes to support our educational programming, which includes walking tours like this one. We sponsor walking tours of various neighborhoods around Burlington, cemetery tours, and we also bring in speakers who can talk about historic preservation and other interesting historical topics. And in addition to that, we have hands-on workshops that we provide that will help homeowners learn how to take efforts to preserve their own property.
All right, thank you so much for joining us today. And that finishes up Across the Fence for today. From the crew behind the scenes here at WCAX, I'm Jolie Whitney. Thank you for watching and have a good one.